My name is Yanfei, top legal expert in Liyue, and for the avoidance of doubt, no one else comes close. From commercial litigation, to civil mediation, to criminal lawsuits, I'm fully versed in every area.
Sup, boys? So Yanfei is, a thing. Let me just preface this video with saying that I don't have Klee. I haven't pulled Klee. I actually skipped Klee for some stupid reason, but I don't have Klee, so I can't really speak in terms of like how she is compared to Klee. But overall, I think that Yanfei is pretty strong as a 4-star. Being that she is a catalyst user, her main shtick is that she's always going to be able to apply aura. She's not really ever going to be dealing physical damage unless you're using some kind of weapon specific effects. She is going to be applying a ton of pyro, which is very, very cool. Now that does set her up to have some really good reactions and stuff with people like Rosaria or Xingqiu. That means that elemental mastery is a pretty good stat to invest in. Let's actually quickly roll over some of these talents really quick just to kind of understand a little bit about her kit. So her normal attack, the only important thing about these 3 hits is that they do grant her these scarlet seals. Once you have 3 of the seals, the charged attack damage is going to be slightly increased, and you are going to have a reduction in your stamina cost, which is actually really cool. You kind of use your normal attacks to get these scarlet seals, and then you end up using your charged attack, which does consume those, but you can get them right back. It feels kind of interesting to play. It feels a lot like Ningguang if you've been playing Ningguang for a little while. Her elemental skill is pretty much pretty run-of-the-mill. It just hits, and then it actually grants you the maximum number of scarlet seals. This is actually really cool because once you use your charged attack, you can then just go right into an elemental skill and then go right back into a charged attack if you want to use your maximum number of seals again. So you can kind of bob and weave out of this, and it kind of feels really nice. Her elemental burst actually grants you the total number of scarlet seals possible, and it applies brilliance. Now brilliance grants Yanfei a scarlet seal at fixed intervals. They are every 1 second, and increases the damage dealt by her charged attacks, and this effect will end once she leaves battle. So as you can kind of tell, there is a lot of emphasis on her charged attacks here. Even into her ascension talents, when she consumes a seal using a charged attack, it increases her pyro damage bonus, which is actually really nice. Unfortunately, they don't stack when a charged attack is used again during this effect's duration. It will dispel the previous effect. Her other ascension talent, whenever she deals a critical hit, she actually ends up doing 80% of her attack as AoE pyro damage, which is actually really cool, and it counts as charged attack damage as well. Now, when it comes to leveling up these talents, I definitely, because of the charged attack emphasis, I definitely would suggest your normal attack first. Then it's probably going to end up being your elemental burst, and then after that you can fit in your elemental skill as well, and you should be pretty fine. Really quickly, I do want to mention that her constellations are decent. C1 is the best constellation. If you are chasing Yanfei and you really want to use her as like your main damage dealer, I would maybe suggest trying to get the C1 if you want. C0 works just fine still, but C1 is kind of like her most important one. C6 is probably more important after that, and then these other ones are just kind of bonuses. So let's talk about weapons really quick. So the main deal with Yanfei's weapons is that there's kind of like a generic pool that does really well, and if you really want to get into like a quick swap kind of team, it just slightly changes the order of this. It's not very heavy. Basically, if you're into the quick swap idea, which is just quickly swapping between your teammates so that you can use a lot of elemental skills back to back to back to back, and no one character is like on the field super duper long. The Widsith is pretty much like top dog in that scenario, being that the Widsith can provide 3 different effects at random, and all 3 of them work really, really well on Yanfei. They are just amazing for her. So the Widsith works out really, really well here, and it's probably like top contender if you're going for a quick swap situation. If not though, it pretty much breaks down to Skyward Atlas is probably going to be your best bet. Lost Prayer slightly behind that. Memory of Dust is kind of situational if you have her at least C4 and you can provide shields to her. If you're running her in the Mono Pyro team with Geo and you are providing shields to her, Memory of Dust could be like top dog for you. It just kind of depends on your situation. If you are a Battle Pass player, then Solar Pearl works out really, really well here. The map of Mare is probably probably actually going to be the best free-to-play option for her. Frostbearer is okay, but Mappa Mare definitely seems to outpace it. And Black Cliff Agate could also be really, really cool here as well. And then Sacrificial Fragments is actually kind of interesting. I haven't done a lot of testing with it, but I thought that the effect on it would be pretty interesting with Yanfei, because being able to spam her elemental skill a little bit more often, you could do charge attack, you know, build up your seals, charge attack, hit your elemental skill, charge attack, hit your elemental skill again, charge attack. I thought that kind of stuff would be pretty interesting, but I don't know long run if it's actually worth investing in solely for Yanfei. There are a couple of different things that I would like you to kind of think about before you really start building her, just so that you kind of have an idea of what path you want to go. There's kind of two different routes that you would maybe want to go. Mono Pyro, which typically just means that you have 2 Pyro characters on your team, and then either 2 Geo or 2 Anemo, depending on which way you like to play. Geo in this scenario benefits a lot because it does actually shield Yanfei. She is quite squishy. She does die pretty fast if you aren't very careful. So Geo is actually good at really helping out by keeping her shielded. Anemo, on the other hand, does allow you to use Veridescent Veneer, which actually helps get a little bit of extra damage by reducing that elemental resistance with the 4-piece bonus. If you know you're going to be going up against Cryo Slimes or Hydro Slimes or whatever, it may be actually pretty good to have one of those Anemo units be Sucrose, because she can actually boost your elemental mastery for Yanfei and helps you do extra elemental damage as well. Other style of team would be more of like an amplified team, so something with like Yanfei and Sing Shou would be really good. Even Yanfei with a different cryo character would be really interesting. The biggest issue with the amplified team, I feel like right now, is the aura that you are going to be applying to the enemy is going to be so eaten up that sometimes you're not going to be able to do reactions with Yanfei because of how quickly you are dealing the damage with her. If a lot of this next section sounds confusing, I'm going to leave a link in the top right so that you can go check out a video that talks a lot about elemental gauge theory and stuff like that. The issue with Yanfei is that, being that we are a catalyst user, we are going to be dealing tons of pyro specific damage, which means that we are constantly going to be applying auras, and we may not end up proccing the reactions that we want to with Yanfei herself. So if we build all of our elemental mastery into Yanfei and we never do the reactions with her, we literally just wasted a ton of time. Even with Sing Shou, it's really hard sometimes to maintain a hydro aura with Yanfei because she is eating up a ton of that aura, and then she starts to apply the pyro aura to the enemy instead of the hydro aura that Sing Shou would be using. The same issue happens whenever you talk about the melt version, where there's not really like a solid way to keep cryo on the enemy consistently. Both Diona would be a really amazing character here because she can buff your elemental mastery at C6. That's a really cool feature, but even her and Rosaria have a really slow application for their ults. When they aren't on field, they end up having really slow applications. Ganyu is okay. It works way better if the enemies are all crowded up together. If they're very spread apart, it doesn't do a whole lot of good. Kaya is really nice, especially if you want to be like up in the enemy's face. The only problem is that his ult doesn't last very long and it kind of falls to the wayside. Chongyun as well kind of has the issue where we don't really have any way to apply the cryo if he's off field and his burst is only like boom, boom, boom. That's kind of it. So the biggest issue with cryo right now, in my opinion, is that it's really hard to keep the application going because there just aren't any solid options to do that. But even if there were, it would still be a problem because we couldn't keep the cryo aura on anything with Yanfei being so pyro heavy as she is. If you wanted to go with the amplified team, you basically would just, you know, pair her usually with Sing Shou, or if you have a cryo character that you really want to use her with, either one of those, and then you kind of have 2 flex spots where you can either put another pyro character for that resonance, or you know, you can match for the cryo character to have extra crit rate, or you can match the hydro character to have extra healing, whatever you need, or you can just go for an entirely separate reaction and, you know, do fun stuff. Now, if you can decide on which route you want to go, either monopyro or amplified, I think this will make it a lot easier for you. Let's say that you are going into the mono pyro situation. So you're not really focused too heavily on reactions for this particular setup, and you are basically just dealing as much pyro damage as possible while either providing yourself with shields or reducing the enemy's elemental resistance with your Veritas Veneer user. So the main shtick here, the couple of things that I want to mention, I think that Lava Walker could actually be pretty interesting here. A lot of people frown on this, but at the full 4-piece, damage is increased against enemies affected by Pyro by 35%. So you could increase a ton of your Pyro damage by doing this. You do end up having like some resistance added, which is whatever, but this is kind of the only spot that I can really feel like suggesting Lava Walker. I wouldn't really do it in like an amplified team. Crimson Witch just outperforms it by miles in an amplified team. So Lava Walker is kind of like a niche thing. If you're going in this situation, it's perfect for that, but just kind of keep that in mind. Also, we did kind of mention the Memory of Dust having C4 and a shield user. If you do end up going into that direction, Retracing Belight is actually really good here, especially if you're using Geo on your team in this mono pyro situation. It would make kind of some sense to do this. A 4-piece, while being protected by a shield, it gains an additional 40 damage to your normal and charge attack damage. So that's actually really cool. And because we're not doing so many reactions, this 4-piece doesn't really like help us out too much. But if we were to pair 2 pieces of Crimson Witch for the pyro damage bonus and 2 pieces of Gladiators for the extra attack, and this doesn't have to be Gladiators, it could be the Braveheart and whatever it is, the Sojourner set. Yeah, this one. You could do those, but the problem is that these two, the Sojourner and the Braveheart, are only 4-star pieces. So Gladiators Finale being 5-star means you'll get higher stats out of it. So that's why we typically suggest Gladiators Finale. But anyways, 2-piece Glad, 2-piece Crimson works just fine here. It's probably the most consistent damage overall. Now, let's say you are going for that amplified team. This is personally my favorite team to play with her. I like seeing big numbers. It's just the type of person I am, I guess. In this scenario, typically in almost every situation, Crimson Witch of Flames is going to be king here. Now, it is not far ahead. Wondrous Troop is right there on its heels, if not slightly pulling ahead, depending on what kind of stats you've got with it. But Crimson Witch of Flames is basically going to be the best overall set piece that we want to go with here. But Wondrous Troop is also very, very good. Increasing your elemental mastery in an amplified team is always going to be great, and increasing your charge attack damage, considering that we are a charge attack focused catalyst user, is going to be amazing here as well. So depending on which one you kind of have, Crimson Witch Flames is technically easier to farm for because Wondrous Troop is hidden behind bosses. So just kind of depending on, you know, which one you have, which one you like better. I personally have been messing around a lot with Wondrous Troop. I do have a full set of Crimson Witch Flames, which I did use for her, but I've just kind of been toying around with both. I personally have really been into the Wondrous Troop here lately. And like we said, for the mono fire team, Retracing Belight also works out really well here. I will say that this doesn't have to be Geo in this situation. If you are using Diona as your cryo applicator for your amplified team, Diona also works well with providing this shield so that you can get the extra charge attack and normal attack damage. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Geo, but you know, just throwing that out there. And then the 2-piece Crimson, 2-piece Gladiator, same stuff applies like we just talked about in the mono section. Probably most overall consistent. Now, I do want to point this out really quick, okay? 4-piece Heart of Depth. I think this is kind of like the meme set right now. Either like Heart of Depth or Thundering Fury could both be like the meme sets, because you don't really get anything out of their 2-piece bonus, electro bonus, or hydro damage. You don't really like get any help out of that. But 4-piece set on the Heart of Depth is after using an elemental skill increases your normal and charge attack damage by 30%. So that's funny. If you have a full 4-piece of that and you don't have the Wondrous Troop, then you know it's kind of like a much worse Wondrous Troop, because at least you get the elemental mastery bonus out of this, and it's 5% more for Wondrous Troop. But just throwing that out there, it's kind of a meme set. If you end up using that, then yeah, you could do that. Also, like we said, Thundering Fury, kind of a meme set as well. It increases overload damage, so if you like playing her in just some really wacky like overload comp, it could work, and it could be probably pretty fun. I'm not into that playstyle because I don't like my enemies flying all over the place. But But if you like it, then by all means, have fun with it. Now, as far as the way that you want your stats to go on these artifacts, typically for your sands, you would want to have either attack. If you're going mono pyro, it makes more sense to just put attack here. If you are going amplified, you could go with attack, or you could go with elemental mastery, depending on how you feel about that. I personally have an elemental mastery piece on mine right now, and she is doing pretty gnarly with it. Always want to go with pyro damage here. Nothing else that you should ever really want to put here. And then crit rate, crit damage, whichever gets you closer to your 1-to-2 ratio here. It really will depend on what your other substats are, what weapon you're using, and stuff like that. As far as the actual substats of all of the pieces, you really want to focus on crit rate, crit damage, as always, really. Being says she is a main DPS, like she is going to be the main damage dealer. She doesn't have a whole lot of purpose supporting the other team. She doesn't have any abilities that really help support the other team. Crit rate, crit damage makes a ton of sense. Attacks always make a ton of sense. Elemental mastery makes a ton of sense, especially if you don't have Elemental Mastery on your sands for an amplified team. You want to try to put Elemental Mastery at least in your substats. Energy Recharge actually works out really well here. Her Elemental Burst does cost 80 freaking energy, so it is quite hefty, but it is worth it because it does increase your charge attack damage. So any kind of energy recharge that you can get works out really well here as well. So yeah, boys, that's pretty much Yanfei. Initial thoughts on her: I like her a lot better than I like Rosaria. I said that I was going to make a video about Rosaria and the like using her in a team. I haven't gotten around to doing that simply because I just haven't, I don't know, I haven't liked playing Rosaria, and it's weird. I know it's weird. Die, thank you. I'm gonna leave you off with a little montage that I put together. Just, it's nothing special. She's C1, she's level 69. It's just me goofing off, just trying to do cool editing tricks is all I really want to do. But yeah, hope you guys have had good luck getting her. I know a lot of people have had some issues getting her, and I did myself. I had, it was like 60 or 70 wishes before I got her. It was pretty stupid. But anyways, I'm rambling at this point. See ya.